What is up, Retromaniacs? My name is Mike. His name's Joe. His name's EP. We're here to talk about cards. This week, we're going to talk about card shows. They have cards at card shows, so we're talking about cards, but we're also talking about card shows. Joe apparently has some questions for EP and I. And in this video, I will be playing the role of the card show buyer because I don't set up card shows. They're way too much work, way too much of my time. I like to be able to go, spend my money on what I want to buy, and get out of there. EP, on the other hand, will be playing the role of the card show dealer because he likes to stand around all day, never even sit down, talk to people forever. I can't do it, but EP can. So I am the buyer and EP is the dealer. And this is true. I mean, I go to the card shows to buy. I have a lot of fun buying. EP has a lot of fun selling. It's fun to sell, but not when you have to stand around all day. But hey, to each other, I'm not going to yuck somebody else's yum.
Exactly.
So Joe, I'm going to throw it over to you because I've already talked way too much.
I have questions and everything. First off, the reason I know, right? The reason that I thought about this topic for today's show is because I swear at this point, 90% of the texts I get from EP are like, oh, guess what? I'm going to the card show. I'm going to go set up at the card show, guys. And then it's like about him being a mentor to a lot of the new people at the card show. Like he talks about that all the time. And then from you, Mike, 90% of your texts are like, guess what? I just bought at the card show, bought a bunch of cards at the card show. And, it's just, I'm like, I need to talk about it with you guys. So I'm going to start with EP. What is your process for just in general, very general terms, getting ready for the card show? What do you have to do to get into that mindset? And then what are you doing as you're going to get ready for the show?
Well, number one with a bullet, which it's a very weird, odd thing, but I like to take all of the boxes of everything I'm taking and put it next to my door. Then before I leave, just because this is all the stuff I need. It is right here available. That way I don't forget anything. Obviously, I had that one dream where I forgot my $1 boxes, 50-cent boxes, which would be a nightmare because that's what primary.
What else would be on your table at that point?
Right. So my most important thing is having that stuff that goes far and above everything else. Is making sure that stuff is ready and available. But as far as when my brain kicks into full gear. I want to make sure that I have my 50-cent boxes full. That's the most important thing is having those boxes full, because there are a lot of people who they will come up and they're grazing, they're doing whatever. But I put up the 50-cent boxes up there. They're 3 for $1. They're good price, so I can easily find 3 to 6 cards and pay like $1 or $2 and get some really cool cards. So having those full, I think, is an important thing. I think 95% of the people who come to my table leaf through my 10-cent box just because it's 10-cent cards, and they're just they may not pick anything out, but they'll leaf through it just because it's a 10-cent box. So those who are as much as I love having really cool stuff in my case, and then also in the box where I have price stuff, having those things because so many people go through them is important to have those ready to go.
And just a quick follow up on this, and we've talked about this on other shows, so I wanted to ask you quick just to mention it here. How do you comp the cards that you're putting out?
ComC is probably the number one, number one with the bullet with a lot of the stuff I do, because eBay, everything's going to be $1 or $1.50 typically. If you factor in shipping, which you have to do, you have to always factor in shipping. So everything on eBay is going to be at least $1.50 or at least 99 cents because of with the shipping and all that sort of stuff. So with ComC, there's a lot of stuff on there listed for 20 cents or whatever. I feel like a lot of times you have to add 25 cents to it because of the ComC shipping fees. You got to make sure you're logged in, because then the prices change based on if you're logged in or not because of the prices. But ComC is a pretty good one to look at and say, if this card's 75 cents on ComC, it's probably maybe $1 card, depending on who the player is or who the character is on the card. Then that might be a 50-cent card or $1 card, but that's a good gauge is ComC in my opinion. I also use eBay quite a bit, but the ComC is primary for the lower end stuff.
So, Mike, as the buyer, what are you doing to get ready? Because you're a whale at these. When people see you walk in, I've gone to card shows with you, and I've seen you walk in and people just walking up to you with boxes of cards and just but I pulled these aside for you. I'm like you're Elvis when you go into these things. But what are you doing to get ready? What's your game plan how much money are you taking? How much like how much leafing through cards are you expecting to do? Things like that.
Well, I take a good amount of money with me. I tend to be one of those, I would rather have more money than I need than not have enough money kind of people. So I won't give you a dollar amount, but I do typically take a decent amount of money with me. Now we're talking about local card shows. I am not a whale when it comes to going to the national or a big card show, but at our little local shows, I have a little bit of a reputation for somebody who's willing to spend some money if I find the right stuff, and I am that. I've earned that reputation.
Yeah.
When I was going before, I kind of didn't focus enough, and when you don't do that, you end up taking large quantities of stuff at times and then figuring the rest out later, which, I'm not saying that it's like a bad deal. It's still stuff that I know if I can sell stuff and if I can't. So even if I'm buying a bulk amount of stuff, I kind of have a good idea what price I have to pay for it to make it worthwhile to do. So I'm never really worried about that because I'm really well versed in what I buy and what I can sell it for. But the problem with doing that is after you do it for a while, stuff tends to back up and pile up. And,
Right.
I do find stuff that I bought, 6 months, a year ago, maybe, that kind of got pushed aside that I never got around to selling. So I have been lately trying to focus more on what is my next sale. Like this last sale I went to, I have my big Football Mania stack sale coming up. So I was focused on football. I've had other sales where I was looking for, basketball because they're going to have a sale. So I find that I do a lot better when I have a plan. What am I going to be selling next? What is my next sale?
Yeah.
I know that in advance, and then I do buying for that sale.
I need to interject two things before we start. The first one, how you didn't do an Elvis impersonation at the very beginning of that. I'm very, very disappointed.
Thank you very much.
There you go. Thank you. And then the second part, I feel like, Mike always comes back with cool, interesting stuff. But I'm always like looking at him, watching for him to come back, and he comes back with like a bag full of stuff or a stack of cards, like this much, a handful of cards or whatever. It's always fun. But to his one point, but stuff stacking up, he did bring a 5,000 count box with him for me to go through of stuff that was got left over that I'm going to go through and pick out some stuff for some baseball card boxes, that sort of stuff. So yeah, he proof positive that he has way too many cards, but that he's not afraid to keep buying more cards for sure.
Well, you can't stop. You can't stop. Something better might be in that new box I'm buying.
Exactly.
Mike rolls into the mall during a card show and he's like, "Oh no, I'm actually here to run to Annie Ann's. I'm not buying cards." 3 people are calling their financial advisors. We got to get a second mortgage on the house. Mike's not paying for cards this week. So
I heard you say Mike rolling into the mall, and I thought of like him walking in with like the Fast and Furious music playing in the background, him like slow motion walking in.
Maybe I'll do that next time.
Tokyo drift the Tesla right into the parking spot. So you kind of mentioned this a little bit, Mike, but like I asked DP how he comps his cards. Do you comp cards like in the moment, or you just you sell them and see them so often that you don't even have to at this point? Because you're not looking at cases, right? No. For the most part, you're looking at dollar
every
boxes.
Now and then I will, just to see if there's something, from the 90s or early 2000s that somebody might have in the case, but you don't see it too much. Although I did like Bill that runs Doc's Card Shop here in town that I go to all the time. He sets up the shows, and I bought some stuff out of his case because he had some autographs and stuff in there that I was interested in, and he always works with me on the price. So like he usually he's so good that I'll ask about something, he gives me a price, and I just say yes. So it works well. So I do look in cases, but I don't see much of what I'm interested in. But in terms of comping, I don't comp anything there. I have a very good knowledge of what stuff is, and I might not know exactly what a comp is, but I know the price I'm buying it at. I feel good that it's something that I can sell for a little more. Like I'll go through. Yesterday I went through a whole bunch of $3 cards at a new dealer that doesn't usually set up their hat, and I found a lot of good stuff in it. But I left all the stuff there that I felt wasn't worth $3 or wasn't really worth any more than $3, but I found a lot of stuff that was worth quite a bit more than $3. And just I have a knowledge of that time period because I had the shop that a lot of people don't have, so it's easy for me to be able to look through stuff and go,
right.
oh, that was really rare, that has to be worth more than $3. So
yeah,
I'm not going to sit there and comp everything. It takes a long time to do that once I get back to the house, but I'm okay. I win way more than I lose, and I'm confident in my knowledge of the cards that I feel like I will do that consistently.
And you're talking $2-3 instead of like, there's a $5,000 card. I better make sure that it's still worth $5,000.
If there's a card I'm looking at that's like an $80 or $100 card, obviously I'm going to be looking up comps of that. But the lower end stuff, I don't. I have a knowledge of it, and I use that knowledge when I'm purchasing.
I'd like to interject again just 1 second. I feel like I have a decent-ish knowledge, but not nearly as much as Mike does. And also my confidence in the knowledge isn't nearly as much as Mike's. So in the same regard, like a lot of times when I'm comping stuff, I'm looking just to make sure, is there some weird parallel that I'm not sure about from this set that, that to make sure that I'm not missing like a upper deck gold or something weird from that set. A lot of my times when I'm searching, I'm just making sure there's not something like wild that I'm missing, because I don't have nearly as much of a knowledge base as Mike does.
Yeah, that's a good point. Especially like the stuff you're buying, Mike. It's like you're not putting a ton out there individual card wise, so you can take a little risk. Like you don't have to sit there and comp everything because you're losing $3 max, and you're always going to get $1 out of even a $3 card that you bought. You could probably still sell for $1 if you find out it's only worth $1 in one of your sales. So that's a big help. So you actually kind of alluded to it, Mike, when you were talking about Bill kind of just giving you a price and you being, hey, I know Bill takes care of me. He's going to give me a good price or a fair price. But for both of you, we'll start with EP. How much does haggling take place at these shows? You see it all the time on these big YouTube content creators going to vlogs and, hey, let's flip a coin over $5,000. Like what kind of actual haggling goes on at the shows, the local shows that you participate in?
I believe the Gage, one guy next to me, had a pretty decent back and forth with one of his customers after you left, Mike. I thought it was he actually never came to my table. He stopped for a second. I was talking to him when he was at Rod's table too, but he didn't buy anything. But that was a good back and forth for me. There's not a ton of back and forth. I don't have a ton of really high end stuff. I have a few $50 cards, some $20 cards. I don't have a ton of really high end stuff, but I do occasionally will have some back and forth. But the bottom line is, for me anyway, if somebody comes in with a fair offer, like a price I'm looking at anyway, like I price my cards pretty fairly as it is, I feel like. But if they come in with an offer that is, my number that I want to get out of it no matter what, I'll just say yes, and that'll be the end of it. Like I'm pretty much, I understand the prices that I want to get out of it and that sort of stuff. I've witnessed a ton of it myself at our show anyway, because I feel like there's probably only a couple people that have super high end stuff. If there is, there's nobody with like $10,000 cards in their cases, I don't think, at the mall show.
Yeah. And I see you sweat when I've seen it in person, sweating over a negotiation. I have video evidence of you like stressing out over like that process anyway. So the least amount of haggling, the best, I think, for EP. What about you, Mike?
Yep. Well, Card Show Kevin aside, he'll tell you a different story because I do haggle with him a lot. But yes. Usually I'm picking out a pile of stuff and then I'm asking him a price and then we go from there. So we haggle, but for the most part, I don't do it very often. Again, I'm buying lower end stuff, and Card Show Kevin's typically the only one that I'm buying like a big quantity of it from any one dealer because he has more of the stuff out there. But what I will do is if somebody has a price like such and such for such, like 4 for 10 or something, maybe before I start digging, I'll ask, can you do any better on this if I buy like a pretty good stack of them? But I'm not gonna like haggle price. I might go in, I might ask them, can you do this? Like if they're selling for $250 card, I might figure $2 a card and ask them if they'll do that and stuff. But for the most part, I don't haggle a lot. I usually like to if it's a certain price, I'll look through the cards, and if I see stuff that I think is more than that price, that's what I pick up. And other times I look. There's one particular dealer at the local show we go to a lot that his stuff is just overpriced. And I was even telling EP about it the last show. It was like I was thinking about asking him if he would do better, but like his prices are just so.
Right.
I felt like they're so out of line that just there's no room for me as somebody who's buying to resell to buy them from him. And we've talked about how ridiculous it kind of is that the person doesn't really, he's not very open to giving deals. That was another thing. So I don't waste time if I know the dealers, and you get to know the dealers at the small show. So you know who you might be able to haggle with and who it's not worth you try.
It's like someone trying to get like Josh Allen from you, and they offer Brenton Strange, and it's like no counter. Where's the counter?
How do I counter that? Yeah.
How do I counter that? What were you guys saying?
I was gonna say, I feel if you're there to sell cards, like you're gonna, especially if someone's gonna buy like lots of cards, like you make that deal. Like there was somebody who came up to me. I'm not sure if this is gonna cross over another question or whatever, but I had a guy come up to me. He was looking at two different cards. It was $90 on the total. It was like $50 and $40. And he was ready to pay the full amount, but I saw it seemed like he was really close to paying the full amount. I just told him I'll give it to you for 80, both of them for 80, and he ended up taking that. And I feel like that, like you have to be willing to make those kinds of deals. I had somebody else come up to me, and he has I want to say a stack of cards, but a number of cards where it was probably about $7-ish for my 50-cent box. He said about $5, and I was like, yeah, I'll take it. And just because like you have to be able to go, kind of make that deal. You don't want to give away the farm, obviously, but you need to be able to if
you should want to sell cards.
Yes,
right.
Exactly.
That's like point, that right? dealer I'm talking about. We were talking about this at the show. It's like he has so much stuff I would buy.
Right.
If he would give me the right price,
like entire boxes worth.
But I could sell. I could buy like $200 or $300 worth of your stuff here, though, if you give me $1 a card off of these that you have.
Thank you, sir. Here you go. Take the box.
Yeah. Right. I forget what show we said this in, but it's a card show, not a card museum. And I think a lot of not a lot of dealers at the local show, but you see that at the national where they have just these ridiculous prices on things, and you're like, are you supposed to want to sell? Like, am I supposed to ask about this? Because there's no way I'm paying that price. So the next thing I want to talk about, and I think this will be more for EP than Mike, because I think I know EP's answer. Have you ever, for EP's case, regretted selling something? And then in Mike's case, have you ever bought something that's like, oh, I shouldn't have bought that? Or you bought something you were like, or you did buy something you regret not buying it because, oh, damn, that would have been a great deal. But let's start with EP first, because I think every card he sells, he regrets selling.
Well, yeah, 100%. I mean, the bottom line is everything. I won't say everything. I would say like 90 to 95% of what I have is stuff from my personal collection that I've had either from forever, from opening, back in the 90s, or from opening in 2012 or whatever. Like the bulk of what I have is that stuff. So these have been my cards in my possession. They've been my collection for so long. So yes, there is especially a moment at that moment when I'm selling this card where I'm like, what am I doing selling this card? But in the same regard, I'm at the card show selling cards, and after a certain amount of time, I realize, you know what, this money, I can use this money to buy more cards and or to buy this one card that I really would like. So like that's the whole point of the selling on eBay and the selling the cards at the card show, is that it is up. I'm trying to consolidate my collection, upgrade to other stuff that I'm a little more focused collection, as opposed to something where I'm just opening literally a box of everything that comes out in 1999, which we all did. But like I'm
multiple boxes,
trying to funnel funnel that stuff into a more focused collection.
Right.
So yeah.
Can I point out the irony of EP talking about selling cards to buy cards he wants, and I look over his left shoulder and I see Reggie Jackson and a 1990 Upper Deck box, and I'm like, no, you don't. But
he's selling cards to buy more boxes.
Yeah,
to try and chase.
More of the find the Reggies. Yep, I just want to go flip my more boxes. Yeah.
I don't regret any. I mean, I'm not spending a lot of money, so it's really kind of hard to regret it. And with the stuff I buy, at the very minimum, I'm like, I can sell that card for $2 in my stack sale. So at the very minimum, I feel like I'm going. at worst can make no money on it. I can get my money
Mhm.
back out of it probably in a stack sale. You know, I'm thankful that I have the following I do and the people that like the kind of cards I do, and I've been doing this for long enough now that I kind of have a good feeling of what I can sell and what I can't. So I feel like I'm not going to lose money on much of anything, and I'll make money on the ones that are wins. And
Yeah.
you know, really not much regret there. But again, you're talking about lower end stuff. It's really,
Right.
I'm not going to beat myself up
Yeah.
over buying something or not buying something that is a $5 or $10 card. It's just
Yeah.
not really that important
So-
at the end of the day.
So I guess on the flip side of that, it'd be hard to know, but like not buying something, was there anything at a show where you didn't buy it and you went back and you're like, damn it, I really should have bought that, and then you missed out on it, and you went back maybe to buy it and it was gone, or you forgot about it and went home or whatever? Is there anything you can remember like that?
Typically more so with like wax, because I do my pack sales, and I've had some. There was a guy I had bought a box of 92 Ultra 2 basketball from, and it was opened, like it didn't have the seal on it. It was a pretty good deal, so I bought that. But he had other stuff there, and then when I was thinking about after, I'm like, well, they were a pretty good deal too. Like this one was a really
Yeah.
good deal. That's why I bought it. But he had other sealed product there too. Not a lot, but he had stuff there that, like, since I bought the one that was a really good deal, I didn't really stop to think, well, these others would be worth getting too. I just jumped on
Yeah.
the really good deal and left that there. And I thought, oh, that would have been nice to have as I'm sitting on eBay trying to find stuff for
Right.
like the right price to be able to have room to resell it. So yeah.
That's unlike you. I that's kind of shocking that you didn't like turn the car around or whatever thinking about it,
Well, I hadn't, I didn't have my last pack sale like planned at the time. If that would have been what my focus was, I would have bought more.
Yeah.
But like, I'll typically, if I find boxes that are good price anytime, I buy them just in anticipation that sometime I'm going to have a pack sale. But
eventually
it's
they
not-
will
yeah,
be used.
Yeah, I've witnessed it
Exactly.
a couple times. I think Joe, you've seen it one time where Mike is leaving, actually has to ask to borrow a cart to
Yeah.
take the stuff out of the show and put into his
Yeah.
trunk that he's buying at the show. So
Yeah,
Couple
that's
times.
true. That's
one
true.
or two, maybe.
I could talk all day about this. Has been a lot of fun. I look at the clock and we're like, oh geez, we're running here. But I wanted to end it with this because maybe we could do a follow-up of this as well if I think of some more questions, because it's been a fun convo. But give the viewers one piece of advice. You, EP, as a seller, Mike as a buyer, one piece of advice if you're setting up at a card show, or as a buyer if you're going to a card show, local or otherwise. What's one piece of advice for the folks, EP?
I'm gonna give two. Just I feel that they're both super important. Price your cards. Make sure it's pretty obvious what the prices are. You don't want to be trying to comp stuff. You don't want to be doing any of that sort of stuff. Just put a price on there. You can negotiate that price. That doesn't need to be the bottom line price. Or just put something on there so people have an idea when they walk up to your case what it is. That is number one. Number two is kind of related, like we talked about in previous topic. Don't be afraid to come off that price. Don't be afraid to negotiate. You're there to sell cards. Don't give away the farm, obviously. But if you're don't give up a $5 sale for like $1, or don't give up $100 sale for $5 or $10. Like you want to make that happen. So that's what you're there for. Those are the two most important things in my opinion.
It's hard for me because I'm buying a lot of the stuff to resell. So, but like, I guess if somebody's buying for themselves, the normal way you give advice will be, well, look around and make sure if there's a card you want and you feel like the price is fair, buy it. Just buy it. My advice is different than walk around and see everything, because it might not be there, or you might not get it and then think, I really should have gotten it. And then especially when you're looking at 90s and early 2000s, I don't know about shows in other people's areas, but around here, you just don't see the good stuff very often. Like you get the junk wax era, there's a lot of that stuff, but you're talking like 97, 98, 99, an insert of whatever, you might not see that at another local show around here ever. So if it's fairly priced, just buy it. And even though I said I don't really barter much, if you're looking to buy like a bunch, if somebody has a bunch of cards you're interested, don't be afraid to say, if I buy like 20 of these, could you do $2 instead of $3? And that's buy in bulk because you can get a better price. Ask them if you can borrow their cart.
I guarantee you they will let you if you buy enough stuff.
Yeah, I mean, don't wait for the dealer to make that offer just because they're there to make money. But the bottom line is, most of them, if they're good dealers, they're gonna be willing to move a little bit on a price, especially if you're buying a lot of stuff like Mike always does at my table. So,
and if you're looking at a card and you're like, oh, should I get it or not? It seems fairly. Just text your friends because they're going to tell you do it. That's what we're here for.
If they're good friends, that is.
If they're good friends, they'll say do it. But if not, I don't know. This has been fun, guys. I learned a lot about card shows. I don't go to card shows that much. I've set up once, famously. It was the best I ever did. But famously, I set up once. But I'll go to shows from time to time. So this is interesting to hear some stories. Maybe we'll do it again. I have a lot more questions we didn't even get to, so we might have
definitely
to
should do it again then.
Yeah, definitely.
It was fun.
Yeah, if you guys like this, make sure to like.
And any advice as a buyer or seller that you have when you go to your card shows, always put those in the comments. Two of us will respond to you.
All right, guys, that was a lot of fun. We'll probably see you next week, right?
That's likely.
One more week. Let's do it.
All right. See you guys.
See you, boys.
See ya.